Welcome to Sandra P's Gen Extra. Hello. See if I can get this correct. Solo layout. I hope everyone is doing well. Welcome back to Sandra P's Gen Extra. For those of you that were here with me this morning, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming back. This is actually something that I wanted to talk about. Drew versus Ralph, Drew versus Shamia, Drew versus Portia. So we'll talk about that a little bit. I had taken some notes. Everyone that's able to come back, thank you so much for joining Sandra P's Gen Extra. And those of you that are going to be on Team Replay, I appreciate you today on Team Replay. I'm seeking peace today. I'm in my Bob Marley One Love t-shirt. Okay. Capricorn Flower, my moderator, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. Thank you. If you're in the bushes, just click the like button and I would appreciate it. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And I thank you so much for that. And let me see where, hopefully the sound is okay. It looked like the mic was on. So let me know if it is not. Thank you so much. Thank you, Capricorn Flower. And she is letting everybody know, please hit the like button as you come in. Mama 59 works. Hello. She's speaking to everyone as she comes in. She's one of my moderators as well as my sister. Thank you so much. This is not Drew versus Ralph. This is Real Housewives of Atlanta alum Drew. She's not just an alum. She's still there. Drew's having kind of a tough season. But we know of Drew from as far back as The Game, Drew Sidora. And then she had other projects that she was involved in. So I don't like when people sleep on Drew and pretend that Drew is not that girl and that they don't know who Drew is. I wish I could pull up my IG without there being too many problems. I might try to do that. I might try to pull up Drew. So we can look at Drew. Let me know if you can hear me when I actually go off of that one screen, because that happens sometime where you can't hear me. Well, let me go. I don't want the mail screen. Let me go to, I'm going to pull up my Instagram because I had Drew in here and I wanted to show Drew. As you can see from the thumbnail, and I entitled it, Drew is working. And Drew absolutely is working. Let me know, did you hear me when I clicked off onto another screen? Mama B is my moderator. Thank you so much for joining me at tonight's live. Drew versus Ralph. Drew is working. Drew versus Shamia. Drew versus Portia. It's Drew, is Drew, is Drew. In the thumbnail, I have one of Drew's concerts. Drew has a free concert coming up. Drew is doing so many things. We know she just finished her extended play, which is a multiple song CD that she has out. And she has some beautiful music that she had made. Dennis as the executive producer. I'm sorry that Dennis chose to be so messy to appease his child's mother, Portia, because Portia, everybody knows, was looking for a storyline. So I feel badly about what Drew's going through. I really do. I'm going to run a banner because I'll be giving some opinions on Drew, on Ralph, on what's going on within that court case. And I will be completely candid. My research involved me watching an attorney that was speaking about the case. And the way the lady was speaking about the case, her and I believe the other lady was an attorney as well. One of them is well-versed on Real Housewives of Atlanta. The other one is not. But she would stop and get insight from the other one who is not familiar with what's going on in the show. But the one whose channel it is, she's an accomplished attorney. I won't take that away from her. I first knew of her from another reality show. She was messy on that show. She ended up getting proposed to, I think, after the show. I'm not sure if she and that person were an item during the show because it was first season or so. It was during the beer virus and they stayed in the house longer. It was a really good season of Ready to Love. So this person ended up leaving with someone and they even had a channel together, y'all. They'd be over there together. She'd be giving her opinion. Usually she'd be shading people. And he was a little more calm. And then later on, she likes to do investigations on people. She pulls background checks. She does a lot. But later on, it ended up being that they broke up. She found out that he was not the person he claimed he was, Rashid. Okay, so this man had all kind of debt problems, everything going on. So this is the person that has a YouTube channel, giving kind of pop culture, giving a legal related spin on it. But I'll admit, I didn't get through the entire document that she was reading and reviewing about Drew and Ralph because I found the breakdown that she was doing to be so kind of tilted and one-sided. And the first reason, I would just say this: they were reviewing a motion that was filed by Ralph. So everybody knows if you've been to court, each side gets to put in their motion. And we met Ralph's attorney on TV. She's a bulldog. She walked in saying, "It's a money grab," trying to get attention. She's ready for her close-up, the whole nine. So Ralph's attorney is one of those. And the person reviewing it is one of those as well, and just seem to have a real problem with Drew. Hello, Linnell Seiler. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming in. Linnell comes in and tells everybody, hi. Capricorn Flower and also Mama Bees greet everyone as they come in. So I'm talking about Drew and Ralph. You see the thumbnail. We have Drew. We have Ralph. Let me just click off, and I see when I put up Instagram, if Drew, I'm not going to talk about Shamia right now. I'm kind of tired of talking about her. I'll be talking about her tomorrow when we do our Dropping Extra Sassy Tea Talk. And I just want to know, when I click over to the other screen, let me know. Okay, there we go. Let me know if you can. Okay. Are you able to hear me when I click over to the other screen? Or does the volume go off when I click over to the other screen? Because I want to share some of what Drew is doing. But what I can do, I can just put her up here and just have it as a, I'll just have it as a side. I'll look at it. There we go. Okay. So there's Drew Sidora. What is this down here? One moment. Let me look at this. All right, everybody. Let me know. Give me a 1 if I'm still. I don't know what I put down there. Oh, okay. Looks like I added something to the chat, but I don't have anybody else in here beside myself. Let me try to remove that. That's the beautiful Drew Sidora, everyone, from Real Housewives of Atlanta. What she's working on now is music. She's promoting her music. She's doing concerts. She's doing all kind of stuff. Okay, let me. I want to remove this. Let's see. Add that back. Okay. Excuse me, everyone. I'm not sure what happened with that. I think this is what I, well, let me start from scratch again. I'm going to remove that. Come on, StreamYard, help your sister out. Oh, I see what happened. I have 2 up here and I only want 1. Okay, I'm going to remove that one. Back up there, that is what I want up there. Okay. All right, one moment. We'll have this right in a minute. I'm not sure why this is what I want. I have so many people. No. Okay. All right, everyone, I'm still here. I think what I'll do is just turn off this presentation. That will be better. Let me stop sharing. I want to stop sharing just to make sure. Okay, I appreciate your patience, everyone, while I'm working on this. All right, let me do Control Z. Control Z. All right, the main thing I want to do is just add myself and have that. I don't know when I added this other thing right here. Sometimes I do a little too much clicking and then it ends up. All right, let me cancel. All right, there we go. Thank you, everybody. I apologize for that. I appreciate your patience. And then I'm going to go back to the chat and I'll also read comments. Did anyone else get a chance to actually look at some of Drew's paperwork, because that's what it was. It was the release of Drew and Ralph's divorce documents. And thank you so much for Linnell Seiler letting me know. All right. It was actually the release of their documents. And I just want to show you, or that you listen to.
Document, this very lengthy.
Okay, listen to this.
Yes,
this is if you want to watch this, this is the people right here.
Yeah. You know, she talked in that. They also talked about their documents being sealed, and Drew mentioned how she wanted to keep them sealed for the children, that there were things in there that would hurt Ralph's reputation. I personally believe that she cried when the motion was made to unseal them, because there's stuff in there about her too, and that's what Ralph said. But
okay, we already knew that there are things in the divorce that will be harmful to Ralph, also harmful to Drew. Now, the main thing that really concerns me is that Ralph is not concerned about the things that are harmful to him, as long as he gets a chance to embarrass Drew. And then keep in mind, there are 2 small children involved in this. Drew's son, which Ralph has actually helped raise this son. He was a toddler when Ralph met Drew. The son was a toddler, and Ralph was making motions and noise about he might even adopt this child. We know that he never ended up adopting this child. And we see the little boy in this episode. He's really sweet, a sweet pea. And then Ralph and Drew's daughter together within the marriage as well. So right now they're all still living in the same house. And we'll talk about that a little more. That Ralph has been confined to the basement, and it's a court order that he gets to stay in the basement. Simone, I said her name, but anyway, the person reviewing, that's okay. The person that is reviewing the court documents, she pulled the court documents, she was reading them, dissecting them. And in my opinion, she was just so gleeful about some of the things that were happening with Drew. Now, through the years, I've seen where Drew and Ralph together seem kind of toxic. And then there are times we do catch Drew in a couple of lies. I will say that. But the way that the documents were reviewed, there was no need for that. And then also, I think it should have been stressed more, which I was able to see that the motion was filed by Ralph. So, of course, it's going to be Ralph-centered. And then we know that when Drew and Ralph went to court, a lot of the things that Ralph ended up getting what he asked for, and he came out doing the jig, and Drew cursed him out a little bit through the window. I still don't understand any woman that roots for Ralph. Another thing that was in the documents and that we also saw on screen, Ralph pays all the bills except the exterminator. Now, we did see a scene where Drew, for some reason, is asking Ralph was he going to pay the extermination bill. Ralph uses that as an attempt to humiliate Drew. I pay all the bills. He's getting all these confessionals, y'all. I don't like the fact that Ralph going through a divorce is getting confessionals. Portia's on that show. She's going through a divorce. Now, Ice has Simon in the freezer. So he's not going to get confessionals. Thank God for that. But I still don't like the precedent of a husband going through a divorce from someone whose actual job is the show, getting confessionals and being able to spew his narrative on Drew's job. I don't think that that's fair. And you can disagree if you like. I'd like it if you disagree, just so that we can have 2 different sets of opinion. I mean, it's going to be my opinion because it's Sandra P's Gen Extra. But when I have comments of people that disagree with me, I highlight those as well, as everybody knows. So Ralph pays all the household bills. He wanted us to know. Drew's ordered to pay the exterminator. She asked him to pay the exterminator. And the person that was reviewing the documents kept being really sarcastic. All you got to pay for is the roaches, girl. You don't want to pay for the roaches, girl. All you got to pay for is the roaches, girl. Now, exterminators, if you have a home, you more than likely should have an exterminator unless you're going to do the work yourself. But there's more than just roaches. Thank you, Miss Lady. There are also ants, of course, spiders, centipedes. There's anything that can get into a house. And it depends on what time of year you're going to get whatever bug. So it's not about roaches, girl, which is what this person kept saying and trying to humiliate Drew with. They've shot in Drew's house many times. Many chefs have shot over there. Even people that Drew has been accused of not paying. We've seen them cooking food in her kitchen. None of them came out and said anything about roaches. So I don't know where this person is getting this from. Now, she has a channel, and I'm sure she puts up her banner and knows how to give her fair use disclaimer and commentary. But I thought a lot of what she was doing was a lot and extra. So there was another part of the documents that was kind of disturbing. I'll let you hear it, what she said.
The way that Ralph makes money and the way that Drew makes money is through the Drew Sidora LLC. So that is the one LLC where all the payments come to it for all her endeavors. Her singing, her acting, Real Housewives and everything. Well, honey, after she filed for divorce in February, her lawyer behind Ralph's way that Ralph makes money and the way that Drew makes money is through
okay. That clip is gone. Were you able to at least hear that part? Drew has the Drew Sidora LLC. We see a preview coming up where Ralph is going to mention the fact that Drew dissolved the LLC. And that may be something that they're not allowed to do, especially while they're going through a divorce. But what the attorney has said, that Drew set up for purposes of her business, any income that she earns from her acting, her singing, her touring, anything, all of that income goes into Drew Sidora LLC. Ralph being her manager, he gets, you know what he gets? 40% of that. Managers get anywhere between 10 and 30%. Ralph is getting 40% of that. Okay. Now, initially, when Ralph and Drew came on the show, we heard that Ralph was in tech. I haven't heard anything else more about Ralph being in tech. I can understand why, if one person has the ability to make more money than he would be able to make on his own, why he would be in charge of most things, and then Drew would go out and make the money. We get that. I understand that. But the fact that he's making 40% of her earnings, I don't know how legal it is or not, if she did indeed dissolve that. So that's interesting, what's going on with that. But again, the way the person was covering it was so interesting. Let me see if we have any other comments. And I appreciate those that just came in to say hello. If you're Team Replay, thank you so much for being Team Replay. Thank you. I appreciate it. That was another thing that stood out to me. And then let me see. I think I had a few more. She also was advocating Ralph not leaving. That was something that I didn't like, because the courts have allowed Ralph to stay in the basement. It's not a basement. It's a finished basement. It's a basement that is below the house, but it's almost, not almost live-in ready. It's like a condo. He has a complete unit down there, cook, live, everything down there. He's going to have his podcast down there so he can generate income from down there. And then Drew has to leave the house every other weekend or something like that. Something where Drew has to leave the house. Because they have younger children, this is so there's continuity with the children. So the children they're going to have, it's going to be hard for the kids, but at least they're in the same school. They don't have to leave or go be shuttled here to there for weekend. Ralph gets to move upstairs. Drew has to leave. And we saw that on one scene. Her and her sister Allison drove away. It was their weekend to leave. And so they left. But this one more thing that this attorney said. One moment, I'm going to go turn the camera off for one moment, and then I'm going to start playing this. Okay, let's see. Okay. So with this, she's advocating Ralph not leaving the house. And that's part of the lawsuit. Not the lawsuit.
First of all, I think it's disgusting and obnoxious that people think a man should have to get up and leave his house that he pays all the bills for because he's the man. She's gainfully employed. First of all, I think it's disgusting and obnoxious that people think a man should have to get up and leave his house that he pays all the bills for because he's the man.
Now, he doesn't have to get up and leave the house that he pays all the bills for. And we know Drew's gainfully employed. The show is her job. They have ordered him to stay down there. Drew is the one earning all of the money. Ralph is earning his income from this LLC that the two of them put together while they were married. They're still married. The divorce is not finished yet. So I don't know why anybody would have a problem with a man if they're not able to coexist together within the marriage, for the man to be the one to leave. I don't understand why people get upset about that. And then we all know that when Ralph and Drew first came on the show, and Ralph being in tech, when Drew would have her friends over, if Ralph came up in the conversation, and sometimes if you're talking to your friends or your sister, your husband or your significant other will come up in the conversation. Every time Ralph's name was mentioned, that man would appear. And we found out that he was actually taping Drew. He was recording and he was recording and monitoring Drew and anyone that came in the house. I don't think I would have had a personal conversation with Drew in that house. So I don't understand. I wouldn't feel comfortable living there. I don't think either one of them have the money to leave because they're one unit, especially with Drew being the one making the money. So that was the other thing that stood out to me. So Ralph claims that Drew told him that she had an affair. And then we know that the person being mentioned is also mentioned on another show. It's Ty. She's on Basketball Wives. She's been on Love and Hip Hop. She's now been mentioned a couple of seasons on Real Housewives of Atlanta. So that's another reason that Drew wanted to keep these divorce documents quiet. And I can understand that. So I do feel a little bad for Drew. Never thought I'd find myself windmilling for Drew, but I do feel badly for Drew. Also, another thing that the documents brought out, that Drew took a high interest loan against the house. The person reviewing the documents called it almost predatory loan. So that's one of those very high interest loans that if you miss payments on, they could seize your property for that. Now, we also know that Ralph bought the house solely in his name when Drew was away working. So Ralph used to get away with stuff like that on Drew. And then another thing that Ralph did that was pretty disgusting to me, Ralph, who has helped raise Drew's son from the prior relationship, he was making noises if he were going to adopt that child. And Ralph ended up, thankfully, he didn't adopt that child because we now see a change in the way he even treats the child. And Drew says that. So Ralph reneged on a promise to adopt Drew's son after their relationship started to get rocky, which I can understand. But Ralph was also, he wrote a book and was profiting from a book as if he was this stellar stepfather when he knows that that was not the case. So then another thing that is going to happen, we see in the past episode, Drew is going to be discussed during a meeting with supposed to be Shamia and Ralph getting together to discuss this podcast that he is interested in having from down in the basement, Kings and Queens. And we do know that Ralph worked on a podcast with former Real Housewives of Atlanta husbands, Aaron Ross, who's Sanya Richards Ross' husband. This shows us about Andy Cohen, because Sanya Richards Ross, people were calling her boring. This lady is not boring. She had a storyline with her parents living in her home, her sister living there. They're all a family unit. Sanya works all the time. One of the cast trips, she took them to Jamaica, but I guess she wasn't bringing enough drama. So her and Aaron, who have lucrative businesses, Aaron has businesses in, I won't say Houston, maybe it's Austin, somewhere in Texas, because she had her own show, Sanya Glam and Gold. And I used to watch that. But to me, she would have been excellent to let develop as a housewife. But Andy got her up out of there because she's decent. That's good TV, especially if you follow her. Sanya, they're having another baby, where she was kind of hesitant about if she wanted one, but to have another beautiful son. So congratulations to them. But he had a podcast, Ralph, Aaron, and then Todd Tucker, Candy's husband, Todd. So we know Todd will do 4, 5, 6, 7 different things to have income coming in. So I can understand Ralph wanting to do that. Ralph is somebody that would be attractive to this red pill environment. And then also some of the women, the pick-me type women. These two women that were reviewing these court documents, they would watch the Ralph podcast. One of them even said, I like Ralph. I don't dislike Ralph. I really despise the way that he treated Drew, the way we saw him treat Drew and the children on TV, because I found him very dismissive. I found him cruel. I found him financially abusive. This is all my opinion. Verbally at times, but the court has still allowed this man to stay in the basement. So Shamia was meeting with Ralph on the strength of, she's claiming she was on that podcast that he had a couple of years ago. So now that's enough for him and her to get together and discuss a podcast. But of course, they run into Portia. This is something that is a coincidence if there ever was one. They run into Portia, who's coming out to eat in that restaurant. And Portia ends up questioning Ralph about Drew. So I'm going to read the comment that just came in. Jen Zealous, thank you. Welcome to the chat. I love your name. It reminds me of Gen Z. Jen Zealous. So Sanya was a seat warmer at best. She ended up being that. I felt like she had a lot more story because her mom was really spicy. I loved her mother, her father, Archie. If you ever watched that show, Sanya Glam and Gold, you could see the family dynamic more. But the way that it was on Bravo, she just didn't get her feet up under her. So you people didn't see her as a seat warmer. I did. And I would like her to have more time as a housewife. I feel like she could have developed a little more. And then she ended up being kind of lukewarm because she would try to straddle the fence. And then she would feud with Kenya. She would feud with this one. And it was like, okay, Sanya, if you're not going to pick a side, then don't be kind of middle of the road, not able to really say what you want to say. So I understand why people would see her as a seat filler. But what they've ended up replacing her with, these peaches that they've given out, 4. Only 2 of them I'm even interested in seeing stay. So we got Kelly, Britt, Shamia, and Angela. Angela's bringing bones. She's doing everything that needs to be done, telling a lot of her story, but then some of the story is a little bit scrambled. So we're going to need to hear more truth from Angela. Kelly, I think, brings a lot. I don't know. We'll see what's going to happen with the new housewives. Britt, to me, could be one and done. There are some people that do like Britt. I'm not one of them. I don't really care for Britt. Not because I'm Team Tora, which I'm not. Kenya brought a lot of that on herself, but that could have been handled better. Capricorn Flower, welcome Gen Z in. Okay, so I was talking about Ralph meeting with Shamia and then Drew, and then Portia joining the meeting and Drew being a topic of conversation. So that was something that was never supposed to happen because we know one of the storylines this season is that Portia was upset that Drew was working with Dennis and she kept insinuating that there could be some type of sexual relationship between them, even though there's really been no evidence of it. We saw Shamia in earlier scenes say that Drew and Dennis showed up at some type of event and they appeared to be booed up and they appeared to be dressed alike, but we didn't really see evidence of that. And in the text that Portia's reading out loud, it says something like, I'm not going to F with you, Drew, or something like that. But Portia reads it to say that Drew wants to have a relationship with Dennis in lieu of paying him for the work that he did on this music. So I don't really believe that. And then we saw Dennis tell Portia, no, that's not the way that was, or something like that. But Portia's still going forward with that narrative. So the whole thing's going to come to a head. We'll see what happens with that. But as you see from my thumbnail, I said Drew is working, and Drew is working. I just need her to defend herself a little more. We're going to see some more of her trying to clap back a little bit coming up. So during that scene, we also see Ralph give the time frame of their relationship. They met in 3 months. They were engaged in 4 months. They were married in 6 months. She was pregnant in 8 months. And it was just like, we know it now as love bombing, or it could be love bombing. Some people see it as a whirlwind romance, which is what Shamia called it. But now that we know more about how some of these men, especially if they're homosexual, I don't know that Ralph was homosexual. He said that he was a football player. Was he a professional football player? I haven't heard details of that, but he claimed that he had that in his past on his resume. Also, some type of technology executive. So Ralph was bringing money in, but it appears the past few years, his main income has been Drew within this LLC. So I hope Drew is encouraged in whatever she has going forward next. And I hope that we see another season from her because it looks like she's being written out. I've heard someone say that all of the new ladies, and I've noticed, because I don't watch what happens live diligently. I'll watch it on and off. But someone mentioned that every single lady have been on there except for Drew. If that is the case, I'm going to turn my camera off because it's freezing. If that is the case, that everyone except Drew has been on Watch What Happens Live, Drew needs to be careful. Drew needs to step it up because it might be a scenario where Drew is getting ready to be frozen out. And we see already that any conversation of her usually is negative. Portia is doing a lot to stem a negative narrative toward Drew, in my opinion, from what it looks like, just to keep the heat off her, because she has a lot going on as well, some of which she can't even speak of. So we're right up on 30 minutes. I was glad to be able to give you a good 30 about my views on Drew and Ralph, because there's so much going on. I haven't really been able to get it all out, but there it is. Thank you so much. Excuse the technical difficulties that I had earlier. And I appreciate all of you. I really do. Thank you for stopping by Sandra P's Gen Extra. And please like the video. If you're Team Replay, please like the video. If you're not already subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe. And yes, Capricorn Flower, I will see you later. We will see each other in the YouTube streets. There's a lot going on. So thank you for stopping by. Goodbye.